Okay. Am I going to introduce you?
I think it would be bereavement too, and don't call me a social worker like you did the last time.
I did not call. At Zen Essentials, our philosophy centers on inclusion and equality in our collective journey towards health and wellness. We invite our customers to embrace a skincare routine that goes beyond the surface, fostering a radiant connection between your skin and the nourishing elements we meticulously infuse into every product. Zen Essentials, because your health is essential.
Ryan the Farmer, Part 12.
I'm your host, Dr. Alexis Hazen. I'm a board-certified plastic surgeon who specializes in breast surgery and gender-affirming surgery and cosmetic surgery. I've been practicing in New York City for over 20 years and continue to learn and educate as an associate professor at NYU Langone. Please join me in our mission to discover Zen. Okay, welcome to the Dr. Zen podcast. I'm talking with my dear friend, Andie SantoPietro. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, see, look. Who is an author and an expert in Feng Shui, among other things, and a teacher of Feng Shui, among other things. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about the spirituality of politics, or politics and spirituality, and how we can wrestle with those issues together. And we are both really concerned about our world right now, and we're concerned about this country, and we're concerned about what's going on. And so we're just gonna have a conversation to shed some light about that and what we can all do to make things actually better, right?
Yeah, so hopefully add some clarity and maybe a little peace. If we get it right.
Yeah, so welcome. Anyway, thank you for being here with
Thank
me.
you.
I know it was hard to coordinate this today,
Yeah.
but I'm really pleased you're here with me.
Me too.
So let's just jump right in. So what are we concerned about? What are you concerned about in terms of the world and the politics and what you see going on?
Well, I think there's two things happening. One is the reality of what we're dealing with, and reality is all based on perception. So what you see and what I see, as you know, we're very polarized right now,
Yeah.
especially in this country, probably throughout the world, but in this country for sure.
For sure.
And it's all based on perception.
Yeah.
And perception is based on the reality that what's a reality? It's a collective, all sort of agreeing, believing in one, but a bunch of objectives, and it creates a reality. And that is part, and a very big part, of politics. But what happens with different perspectives and different objectives is that an energy field builds around that, and that energy field then carries certain emotions, certain thought forms, and the thought form and the belief system around the reality becomes another reality. And it generates, it's where the emotions are stored in and around the reality. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does.
So you have a reality field based on thought, and then you have the emotions that sort of cling to it. And the emotions generate more emotions. And, when you said, what am I concerned about? I am not as concerned about the different perceptions or beliefs or even desires and wants. I'm concerned that what is being generated by the emotional field around it is now becoming front and center and leading the way, and we're getting farther and farther away from even the objective or the perception of that reality. And that is sort of the piece that's really hard to break through right now because it's the emotional field that's driving everybody.
And does this always happen? I mean, in any political kind of universe and system, I imagine this kind of scenario happens to some degree or another. But is it now just worse because things are so polarized and because people are so angry and amped up and have been since for a long time now?
Very long time. Yeah, no, I think you're very accurate. I don't think there's anything happening here that's new. There's always been, especially in this country, a two-party system. And a two-party system is based on two different thoughts and philosophies. And as we talked about politics, in the past it used to be based on one where we allocate our monies, and mainly, and policy. And that was always had opposition and differences. What we're looking at right now is not an opposition of beliefs or you wanting money placed in one area and I want money allocated to another. We're looking at the deeper the polarization, the bigger the emotional field. And now that's driving the group, that group mentality.
So why do you think that happened? I mean, if you look at, the origins of this, because I always feel like that's important in terms of change, is, where did it come from? Where did the problem come from? So where do you see it coming from?
I think it's a byproduct of the two-party system dissolving. I think we're actually looking at this whole sense of opposition. Actually, it's deconstructing. And there's a lot of panic involved in that. And I think we're feeling it more on an energy level as we're evolving. And I say this a lot, and I usually get like, I have two heads when I say that. How we're evolving here? We're devolving. That's what it looks like on the surface. And on the surface we are. But when you evolve and there's a stretch, we'd like to believe in more an idealistic version of it, that it looks really pretty. But when you're in deconstruction, when you're in demolition to build the new, everything comes apart.
And it doesn't look pretty.
It doesn't look pretty. And we're in the coming apart stage. So we're clinging because
to these old constructs.
To these old constructs and this old political system that no matter what party you are more affiliated, you're starting to see very extreme fractions of it.
Of course. I mean, I think, doesn't matter which side you're on, there are huge, or which side you are more allied to, there are just huge fringe fraction, but they're not so fringe anymore. They're becoming more mainstream. So what advice or counsel do you have for people in terms of like making sense of this? And I guess, the whole point is that we don't kind of end up in like circling the drain too long. That we like build something that is more constructive and more helpful and that serves people better. We talk about this like with the healthcare system, how it's so broken. And so, what kinds of, and I'm constantly thinking about, what can be done to fix it. So our political system is also broken. So what can be done, or what can give people some hope about it?
I think you have to go back to what you want out of this. So if I said ideally, what would you like to see happen
in this country,
in your lifetime?
I would love to have the ability to have political discourse without and have honesty in politics and in discussion without having people go crazy and be really upset at differing views. I think if you think about, intellectual study, like it's all about difference of opinions and being able to talk about that. We can't talk about things anymore. I think that's a real problem in terms of any kind of honesty, really. And we should be able to debate things solidly and not have it devolve into violence or hate or anger. But what would I like to see? I guess that's sort of like the basis of it. And then I would like to see embracing differences and embracing, what this country used to be, I think, which was a melting pot. People with very different ideas and opinions, but, all maybe a common goal of living peacefully, healthily in a thriving environment. We're one of the richest countries in the world, and yet there's so much emotional poverty here, and it's tragic. It's really tragic. And I mean, if you look back at like pursuit of happiness, like wouldn't that be great if that were our values? But I don't think it is. It's just people are living so much fear and they're just holding on so tight. They're not thinking about pursuing happiness. They're just thinking about, very real issues like where are they going to buy bread,
Yeah, and I think evolution, in theory, is great. I think evolution in history, when you read about how the Neanderthals evolved and how we became, is great. But when you are living a moment in history that is evolutionary, it is not, it won't feel great.
Yeah.
It's a very frightening, overwhelming, confusing, scary, and you go down the list, period. So I think, my perspective is what's happening and what we are experiencing happening, it's happening. This is not, it's your perception.
Yeah.
No, it's happening. But without a bigger picture that it's going somewhere. And we're going through this phase of it breaking down. How it reconstructs, we don't know. And that's the crossroads humanity is at. I think, one of the things that, you mentioned in wanting us to have, more humane or more discourse that's conversational and not. So I think we have to even take that one step further. Yes, that's the premise. But at the end of the day, if we do not separate and go back to the separation of church and state, the issue isn't the differences right now. And in part, yes, it is aggressive and violent. The issues are that thought group of that emotional thought form is now taking what they believe to be is a reality, and they're turning them into laws. And this is the big issue here, because we've always had opinions and judgments. So that's part of maybe who we are as humans, maybe not our best, but that's not the case. What the case is how it's bled into the political backbone and system here in this country, which we call democracy, and that those groups, those collective groups that have an emotional belief system that they feel is true to them, which is true to them. I'm not disputing it, but they're generating that as putting a law and a constriction into place to control the other beliefs and the other ways of living, and et cetera, et cetera. That's the big problem here. That we are moving towards these laws that further divide. And I do think the division is inevitable.
You do.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. And I don't say this from a fear perspective. I just say I see it from a process. You know, like we almost don't want the rubber band to snap.
Yeah.
Like, how far is this rubber band going to go before it gets really bad? We're doing violence, we're doing hate, we're doing, you know, we're doing every low vibration on the planet.
Yeah.
It's going to have a, you know, we're going to go nuclear next. You know,
Right.
like where do we go
Yeah.
from bad to worse?
Yeah.
And I think the fear of where it's going to go is preventing us from allowing it to safely deconstruct. I think that's it. And I think that we have to address the process. And, you know, is there something that I can say to people to make them feel better? No. Because I'd be placating
Yeah.
what is real. And that doesn't mean that you have to see this as the end of the world. I think that's the important piece, that there is a tomorrow after this. Whichever way this goes, the planet is geared towards going towards the light.
And that's where the spirituality comes in.
Correct.
And how do we, I mean, why do you know that?
I know that because, yeah, why do I know that? You
Yeah.
know, why are you even saying that?
Well,
right?
yeah, because I think that's, you know, in tough times, whether it's personal or, you know, collective, that, you know, people lose faith and they lose like where the light is coming from, and so then that, you know, is very scary. And if you look around the world and what's going on in Gaza, and I mean, name a country, like, you know, there's a lot of violence and like infighting almost. So, you know, where are you getting this
Where are
from?
we getting your info?
Yeah.
Where's your intel coming?
Yeah, who's talking to you? The Neanderthals? Are you reading the?
No. What I do know to be true, and truth with a capital T for me, is that we're not just this. And I don't know if
This meaning human form?
Yeah, I don't know if it comes down to faith. I don't know if I have faith. I don't.
But you are spiritual.
But I am spiritual, and I believe that we are a you know, a microcosm here. This can't all be it.
Yeah.
That I do know is true. Now, if you want to call that belief in God or religion or even faith, that's fine. Those aren't words I would use, because faith implies I have this secret access to hope.
Yeah.
And I get just as scared as everybody else, you know? So I don't lean on faith. I lean on sort of the science of spirituality. I know there's more to us than this. And that's what I do believe to be true.
Okay, so what is the science of spirituality?
The science of spirituality is that I believe in a very ordered universe. That doesn't mean it's orderly. I believe that there is order and chaos. And, you know, just, you know, the example I give is you put water in an ice cube tray and then it goes in liquid and it comes out solid. When those molecules are going from liquid to a solid form, they are literally, the scientific word is they're in chaos. It doesn't mean you don't take it out and it's not water anymore, it's just a different form of it, but try to tell those molecules, you know, like when they've been stuck in the little boxes in your tray in the freezer. That's how I see it. I don't really think it's much different than that. I think we are in a very real period of chaos, which we are perceiving to be crisis, because it is in real time now. We're not reading about this in a history book.
Right.
So I understand, and I understand we're going to get through this. And maybe not in our lifetime.
Yeah, okay. So, and you feel like this election, this upcoming election is very important.
Yeah, because I don't think it's about politics anymore.
So what's it about?
It's about a decision a direction humanity is choosing to take.
And what are the options?
The options is that we are going to evolve and see this chaos through and grab a hand on the left and a hand on the right and steady the rudders and go towards evolution, or we're going to try to delay that. That's all you could do. You can't stop evolution, but you can.
You could put the brakes on it.
You could start pumping the brakes and create so much backlash that it looks like we are moving backwards. In essence, if that happens, we will be moving backwards for a period of time, but eventually, just the way the world works and Earth works, we are going to be back at this juncture again. So we can put it off, or we can move through it.
And were we here before? Have we been here before?
In this your apartment?
No.
Because I do.
You have been here before.
I have been here. It's coming back to me.
We did a podcast here before. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Have we been here spiritually before
You're getting too deep on
I know,
me
I'm
now.
sorry.
And
I
went to mundane.
Yeah, because you got scared.
I can't hold it. I can't. They dropped me right back in, and you know.
And on that note, we're going to take a little break.